Hi, it's me again, and the BBC have finally appointed a new chair. I thought that posh lady was going to get the full-time gig. You know, she was standing in for him. I talked about her on the channel previously. Genuinely thought she was going to get the gig. She didn't. Someone else did. Probably, let's have a look at him, shall we? I mean, he's not fully officially appointed yet, but it's pretty much, it's a done deal. Do you know what I mean? Have a look. Finally, a BBC chairman who knows about broadcasting. Well, that's a positive headline. That's one thing we want. We want somebody with broadcast experience working in that industry being the chair of the BBC. Because the chair is government appointed. The BBC don't appoint themselves. It's appointed by the government. So the appointment of Samir Shah as BBC chairman should be welcomed. But it wouldn't, and Director General Tim Davie may even be more effective if they swapped roles. Tim Davie and effective in the same sentence. He seems to be struggling a bit. I don't know the inner workings of the BBC. He may very well be doing a fine job, but from the outside looking in, it doesn't, does it? So let's find out a bit more about this Samir Shah, shall we? So it says here, the appointment of Samir Shah, subject to political confirmation, is to be entirely welcomed. It marks the end of a trend which has had mixed outcomes, to say the least, to appoint retired bankers with the right political connection and absolutely no knowledge of broadcasting to chair the BBC. How much influence does the chair really have over the BBC? I think once he gets settled into the job, I've reached out to some before, I may very well reach out to this gentleman and see if we can have a chat. No one ever does want to chat with me, obviously. But I might, speaking of that, I bumped in to John Whittingdale on Malden High Street. Not last week, the one before. Went straight past me, he did. I've been trying to talk to him for a while. He went straight past me on the high street. I'm just meandering along, having a look at the shops and that. He went past me. And my mate's gone, oh, you know who that was, don't you? So he's like, that was John Whittingdale. I was fuming, I was. Anyway, the bigger picture is the government has done something seriously radical, appointing someone who knows about broadcasting and current affairs in particular to chair the BBC. So it's all sounding pretty promising, this. So let's go to the true fountain of knowledge that knows everything, Wikipedia. And let's find out about Samir Shah, shall we? So we can skip his I don't care about his personal life or any of that stuff. Broadcasting, right. So Shah joined London Weekend Television, there's a name to conjure some memories for many of you, where he was to work with two major figures in his career, John Burt, who later became Director General of the BBC, and Michael Willis, blah, 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 something to do with Juniper TV, which this bloke took over, but I'm not worried about that. In 1987, he was appointed BBC's head of television for current affairs, and from 94 to 98 was the head of the BBC's political journalism programmes. That's a fan of the BBC. The man's a fan of the BBC, right? He's worked there before, he's obviously passionate about them. I know it does say here that in 98 Shah purchased Juniper TV and he's operated as his CEO and creative director, and Juniper TV created programmes for BBC Channel 4, Nat Geo, Discovery and more. Shah's appointment as one of the then three non-executive directors of the BBC in 2007, so he knows the place well, led to a potential conflict of interest because Juniper was supplying programmes to the BBC, so he had to step aside. Okay, so that's a morally correct decision, unless he was forced to do it, which he probably was because of a conflict of interest. Shah was involved in advising Director General Sir Mark Thompson over the Crown Gate affair, which resulted in BBC One controller Peter Fincham resigning. So he was involved in all of that, so he knows about the scandals. He's worked with the scandals. Shah was reported as claiming in 2008 that One BBC ethos presented a monolithic posture that makes it appear anti-competitive. The BBC appearing as anti-competitive. Is that because they don't want to make their own money in the free world where they have to compete with other broadcasters? They'd rather tax the poor, hard-working people of this country to keep them in pensions and expense accounts and very expensive buildings in the centre of London, which I don't understand how they've got it. I'm going to go up there. I was meant to go up to the BBC. I was going to do a video up there, but I couldn't. Something come up. so I couldn't do it. But I will go up there because I've done a bit of research on that BBC Broadcasting House, whatever it is, just off Regent Street. Some of the most expensive real estate on the planet, and they've got a huge. How you paid for that building? And I bet they tell me to stop recording there, and I will see about that. So anyway, though, this Samir Shah has experience in broadcasting. He has experience in creating programs for a commercial nature, which is very similar to how BBC Studio works. You make programs, you sell them to others, including the BBC. He's had experience in different departments within the BBC. He's had experience of dealing with some issues at the BBC, shall we say? So what do you think? Do you think this man is going to bring about fundamental change for the BBC, or do you think he likes the BBC as it is? He's worked there long enough, hasn't he? I don't think he's going to push the BBC on anything, and he's certainly not going to want to change how the BBC works, I don't believe. Is it a fair appointment? Better than some of our previous appointments for chair of the BBC? Probably. But it's not going to affect any change. But I guess we'll see. But I will try, I'll let him settle in, let him get fully appointed, give it 6 months or something, and I'll reach out and maybe we can have a chat. I won't hold my breath. So what do you think about this? Do you think it's a fair appointment for the gig? Probably fair dues, I reckon. Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, hit the buttons and all of that stuff. And if you do that, hopefully I'll get to see you in another video again soon, won't I? Ta-da.